hope you've all enjoyed the last fortnight looking at the league table with the sight of QPR being in the top six. It was a long wait, nearly 3 years since we'd been in the playoff places, but that's where QPR are after an unbeaten run of 6 games and a win at Bristol City. In this show, we'll ponder if we can keep that run going against Millwall in the early Saturday kickoff. But first, let's look back at that win against Bristol City a fortnight ago. At halftime, Dave, when we were 1-0 down, I don't think many of us could see that we'd end the day in the top six, but what a turnaround.
Yeah, it was a good turnaround. I thought we started the game quite well. I thought we played the right first 20 minutes, but once they scored, we were struggling, weren't we? And it looked a case of they'd probably get another one and win the game comfortably. But I just thought if we could stay in the game, we had quite a strong bench, which is how it transpired. What happened? If we could stay only one down, make some changes later, and we could get something. And the changes worked. I thought Harvey Val was excellent when he come on. But Paul Smith was really good, and even Ryan Coley as well. I thought I made a real impact. And once we got back to 1-0, it was like we looked more likely to win it. I thought they were kind of drifting out of the game, and it was a brilliant result in the end, and it was a great away end to be in. It was a brilliant atmosphere on the day.
Definitely. I mean, we split our predictions on the last show, and I was very happy I was wrong. It didn't look like I would be wrong at half time. I felt like when Bristol City were 1-0 up, there was like 10, 15 minutes before the break where they just looked very comfortable. Thought they looked like they had it won if they could get a second goal. But like you say, again, credit Julien Stephan, his Stubbs' instant impact, literally within 30 seconds a minute, they'd made such an impact on the game. Bristol City, they did have some chances when it was 1-1 again, but maybe they'd argue a draw was a fair result on paper. But what a feeling for QPR to nick it late on. And on the manager, Julien Stephan, he was up for manager of the month. Probably should have won it. I thought he didn't get it. Ipswich's manager got it instead. But QPR, top of the form table right now for the last 6 games. He's starting to make a big impression, isn't he?
He is. I think he's going really well. We said in the summer it's not an easy job to come in. You're replacing a manager that was popular, and opinion was divided about how he left and all that sort of thing. So it could have gone either way really, and wasn't a great start, was it? The commentary game. I think we said it at the time. It might do us a favour. I think it has done us a favour to lose that bad. If we lost 1-0, I don't think much would have changed. But that Hayden, he's completely changed how they play. He's been a lot more aggressive, playing so up front, a bit more direct, and it's really suited us, and we look much better for it. And you have to praise him because he's made those changes during games. He's making changes that are getting us points and winning us games. I mean, he has got a stronger bench than we have in recent years to pick from, but you know, it's how you utilise it, and he's utilising it well. And I think there's a lot more to come from him. Like we said in the summer, I think he's an exciting appointment, and you know, so far so good, really.
Definitely. I do agree with your point that he's benefiting from QPR having a better depth of squad this season. And I think we'd all acknowledge what we've had in the last few seasons. But he's utilising it well. Like you say, he's making subs sometimes at half time, or as soon as he feels the game's drifting, he's straight in with the subs, like we saw at Bristol City. Subs, 30 seconds, they've made an impact. It's the quality, but it's also his decision making as well. I also like his demeanour. He just seems a really pleasant guy. And like I say, he's being proactive, and he's definitely turned impressions around a lot in the last 5 or 6 weeks. In the last 3 games, I'd probably say we've not even played that well as well, QPR. It's hard not to think about the 2 points we left on the table against Oxford in particular, probably another two against Sheffield Wednesday. But it was still a decent week before the break. 5 points from 9. Like I said, 6 unbeaten. And when we're getting points and we're not putting in 90-minute performances, hopefully it's all good signs. And overall, QPR have taken half the amount of games to get to 15 points this season. It took us 18 games last year, only 9 this campaign. And not only can we enjoy being in the top 6, you have to think back this time last season after 9 games, we were actually in the bottom 3. So it's a big contrast. And like you say, credit the manager. But the title of the Rangers roundup that Brian did in the break was, will it last? Do you think we can stay in the top 6?
It'll be difficult, but we can do. It's difficult because it's still very early in the season, and the league's very tight. If we have a bad week this week, you're probably going to be in the bottom half in a week's time. And we've seen before in previous years, you just said we were bottom 3 this time last year, and we're around the playoffs within 2 months, and we were top under Mick Beale around this time of year and almost got relegated. So it's hard to tell. But look, like we've said, the squad depth's there. There's goals in this team. We haven't had goals up front for quite a few years. You saw. I didn't think Richard Cohen had the best of games at Bristol City, but he had the one taking them chances with other strikers before. So, I think we've got a chance, but it's quite an open league, and there's quite a lot of teams that have a chance. Um, for me, at the end of the season, if we finish higher than last year's season and are in the top half, I think we've had a really good season. Playoffs would be unbelievable, obviously, and I hope we do it. But if we can just better last season, you know, and hopefully finish top half, I think that would be an excellent effort.
Yeah, I know. I think some people would argue that we're only 3 points above 15th and the
Yeah.
table doesn't matter at this stage of the season. But I've just really enjoyed the last 2 weeks being sixth. Every time I spot a table when it's in the newspaper or on Sky Sports News or something, you think, it's just nice. It's just encouraging to see us up there. I know it is too early and it's only sixth place, but this has been a long few years, hasn't it, following QPR and scrapping at the bottom. So it may not last, but I just think it's important that we enjoy these moments when we get them because it may only be this moment we get. So it's been a nice feeling. It's just going to be obviously the test now of how long will this nice feeling last. I just wish it was game 46 and not game 9. But I agree as well. We just need to be consistent. The league is probably not the same standard as it's been over years. If we can just be remotely consistent, we've got a chance. And I agree with what you're saying about the top half. And Matthew said similar on the Rangers roundup. We just need to try and stay kind of around where we are now, at least stay in the top half, get to the new year, and then maybe we can take it from there. Our XG, which I know there's some fans out there, some people hate it, but it does often tell the correct story with the odd exception. And it suggests we maybe are a little bit higher than where we should be, especially defensively. We've maybe not conceded as many as XG expected. And again, just a question of whether that continues. Before we get onto Millwall, on the back of an international break, some of you may have seen, but next year, rather than a 2-week break in September and then a 2-week break in October, there's going to be one international break at the end of September, but with 2 Saturdays in a row missing matches. What did you make of that change, Dave?
Oh yeah, I think it's a good thing. I felt, it's very stop-start the start of the season, isn't it? And I quite enjoy watching international football, but the qualifiers are not the most exciting at times. I support England, so they're kind of winning most games pretty easily, and it's not that exciting to watch. But yeah, doing it over like 2 weeks and getting all the games out of the way makes sense to me. I mean, personally, I'd like to see it go further, and you have an international window in the summer, so you have like June to the end of August with just international football, and then your league season starts and it's not interrupted. You could even get your transfer window done before that. I don't think that'll ever happen, but I think it will help the international teams. You'll be able to spend a bit more time together, playing more games together, and it will help the club teams that it's not so stop start all the time. It is frustrating. Bristol City was a great day out. We finished sixth, and then it's like, oh, no football for 2 weeks. And, it feels like we're starting again rather than carrying on that momentum. So it'd be good to see if it works. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's good that they're at least going to try it. I currently hate it that August, yet all excited for the new season. We have 4 games and then it's an international break straight away. And also the transfer window finishes, like you just mentioned it. But then you have a break for 2 weeks straight after when you've just made all these signings. It just makes no sense. So next season, it should be 8 or 9 games into the season before there's a stoppage. 2 Saturdays off, which admittedly probably won't enjoy those 2 Saturdays off when they come round. But then we'll have another longer spell afterwards. So I think it makes sense. I actually quite like your idea of making it a longer break, even if they didn't have the November break and maybe just made it 3 weeks where they just get all the international games out of the way in one go. And maybe they need to move to that. But I think it's probably better. And let us know your thoughts in the comments. Millwall then. And if any team sums up how bonkers this league is, it appears to be Millwall in the last few games. Good luck getting any read on their form from the last 6 games. Lost, drew 1, drew, lost 1. Big contrast to just in their last 2 games alone. Lost 4-0 to Coventry, albeit that seems to be Coventry's par at the moment. But then they followed that up beating West Brom, who are a decent team, 3-0. So what do you make of Millwall then, Dave?
Yeah, results-wise, like you said, they're really hard to read. You just look at it. I mean, they always seem to do pretty well. They weren't far off the playoffs last year. Look at the squad, and they've got some really good championship players, especially up front. They seem to have quite a lot of options. They're just always a difficult team. I think they get overlooked a lot. You kind of look at Millwall and think, oh, they'll be mid-table, but they usually finish a little bit higher than that. They usually push in for around the playoffs, and I think they will again this year. They're not miles. I don't need point behind us, and so they'd be right around the playoffs at the minute. You know, probably not. They probably would have hoped for a better start, because I think they're quite few people fancy them this year. But you know, like us, they're going to be around the top, top half. I would have thought. I think they'll do okay this season.
Yeah, they've had a nice, solid championship spine, don't they? Cooper at the back's always a threat in both boxes. I think Smallbone is a good loan from Southampton.
Mm.
And this week's QPR former player to watch out for is Massimo Luongo. He moved to Millwall last summer. A bit like QPR for them, it's just probably a question of consistency, that word again, isn't it? When they play well, they're a challenge for anybody, but can they maintain that level long enough? May have scored 3 against West Brom, but they only scored 6 in 8 games prior to that. Suggest maybe they're lacking a bit of firepower, but to mention XG again, they ranked 9th for that. So just maybe in those early games, they weren't quite getting the goals they should have done. And against West Brom, they took the chances. I know when they lost 2-0 to Wrexham a month ago, they had over 20 shots and should have won. So just maybe weren't taking the chances, like I say. And for QPR, we have to raise it again, though. This is going to be a match where Millwall are probably going to have less possession than us. The win at Bristol City means QPR's last 8 wins have now come when we've had less possession. Millwall also got less passing accuracy than QPR. It's genuinely going to be a concern, though, heading into this game, isn't it?
Yeah, you'd think as the home side as well, we'll probably be going to have more of the ball, and we're just going to have to use it a bit better. I think when we've had more of the ball in the last season and the start of this season, we tend to do a lot of our passing in our own half. We're very negative with it. Whereas, when we have less of the ball, we're a bit more proactive and we create a bit more. And I just think if we just, try and push and play in their half a bit more, having more of the ball is going to be like a help rather than a hindrance to us. We just need to play our football higher up the pitch. And, there are risks involved for that, but I think, you need to take them, especially at home.
Yeah, I mean, the stat has to end at some point. Hopefully, it is on Saturday.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a warning sign. We saw against Oxford how much we struggled to even test the goalkeeper when they sat back, let us have the ball. And then when we start playing our longer balls, it's meat, food and drink for them, isn't it? So, like I say, QPR have not, though, I've got to repeat it, haven't won a game where we've had more possession since February. And you look at the teams we've failed to beat this season, even some of the draws, Oxford, Sheffield Wednesday, Preston, they're all below us for average possession, and Millwall are too. So the signs are there. It's going to be a test for us. Whether we can raise to the challenge is the big question. For QPR, wanted to start mentioning a few players from that Bristol City game that may be giving Julien Stephan a selection headache, starting with Steve Cook. So we criticised him in the first few games of the season when he looked off it, to put it lightly. But a few games out seem to have allowed him to sort out his lingering issues that he had. He looks much more like his old self. Will he keep Mbenge out of the side here? Because he's going to return from suspension.
Yeah, I mean, personally, for me, I'd keep him in there. I think he's looked really good the last couple of games. He's probably one of our better players. You think with a London derby, I'm not sure, and Benga and some of his flying in tackles is a wise idea, really. So I'd probably go with Cook. I think he's a steady influence at the back, and it's another week where you got 3 games, so you can rotate a bit this week. You can bring Mbenge back for the Wednesday game. But yeah, I'd start with Cook. I think he's done well. When we said start of the season, I was really worried when I saw him. I just thought he looked like he'd aged a lot over the course of the summer. But maybe it was just getting over this injury. He looks back to his old self at the minute.
It does, and that's reassuring because even if he drops out of the side, now know that when he does come back in, at least he looks more like the Steve Cook that we know and love from the last few seasons. I thought Lee Morrison actually didn't have his best game against Bristol City, but I wouldn't want to see him dropped particularly. I actually suspect Mbenge could come back in, but like you say, 3-game week, I think they're all going to play a part at some point. Maybe Steve Cook will stay in because Reece Norrington Davis, there's a doubt for this game, and Steve Cook was helping Escudina through the game at against Bristol City. What did you make of Escudina's performance, and could he keep his place?
Yeah, he did okay. He's still quite raw and makes a few mistakes as he goes along, but that's to be expected. He's a very young player with very little experience. I think if we can get him playing, say, 15, 20 games this season, I think that'll be like a good basis for him to be our first choice next year. He's clearly got potential. And, I think with Norrington Davis, and he's had injuries before, you wouldn't rush him back. Maybe play Escudina in this one. At a home game, probably you'd rather put a young player in. I know Millwall will be tough and will probably target him. But I think you'd probably start him at home in this one. And they shouldn't be afraid to because he's definitely got a lot of ability.
Yeah, definitely. Reece Norrington Davis, though, if he's got a niggle, we know these 3-game weeks are going to be a test for him because he's not played a lot in recent years. So even before you consider him having possibly an injury, I think it's risky to throw him back in because he's probably going to have to miss one of the 3 games anyway. So I'd keep Escudina in for this one. And I agree with you. He just needs to keep getting minutes, doesn't he? Especially in these 3-game weeks. keep him heading in the right direction, because there's definitely a lot of potential there. I actually really like watching him play. You can see him making mistakes, but as long as he learns from them, that's going to be the main thing. Other potential selection headaches for Julien Stephan are going to come from the international players returning. Main one, probably Kogi Saito. Great, he got his first cap for Japan, but he's done a lot of traveling, 14 and a half hour flight back, apparently. Can you see him starting? And if not, who plays out wide?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. It'd probably depend when he gets back and how fit he is. I mean, they could start Paul Smith on the left for this one. I think he's looked quite good on the left. He's put more of a threat out there. So I don't think we'd lose too much if they did that. And you could have Saito off the bench, maybe coming on second half. But yeah, there's going to be a few who have been travelling around the world, and they have to be careful. But again, I just said they've got the 3-game week. This is not like a must-win game for us. You obviously want to win on Saturday, but it's not the end of the season if we don't. So I wouldn't be rushing and potentially getting injuries with people who've been flying for the last few days. You know, from what we've said, we've got a better squad. There's enough players in backup to bring in for this one if he's not right.
Yeah, definitely. I think 12 months ago, you'd be thinking we just got to try and get him through the first hour and then replace him. But I personally think Paul Smith and Harvey Vale, with their impressive cameos in Bristol, maybe earned themselves a start anyway.
Yeah.
Saito wasn't potentially actually as good in the last 2 games as he had been before that. So I'd probably start Smith and Vale. And then we've got Saito off the bench, whichever way around it is. Like you just said, good options. And we might even have Kwame Poko and Ilias Chair coming back off the bench too. Be good to see either of them. Now up front, Ramon Burrell and Isaac Hayden, you just kind of said, but there's other players they've been away with Jamaica. I think Varane and Madsen are almost certain to start in the middle anyway. But Ramon Burrell, he didn't actually feature for Jamaica despite all his travelling, but do you expect him to start with Richard Coney?
I don't know, because of the travelling. I wouldn't be surprised if they hold him back and play him in the away games this week, where I feel you can play on the break a little bit more. I'd personally like to see Ryan Coley start. I thought he looked good when he come on in the last game, and I think he's someone that if we're going to have a lot more of the ball, he can kind of drop back into midfield and help us with it in these sort of games and create stuff. And he's got a goal in him, so I'd probably go with him. And you got Burrell off the bench. You can always bring him on second half, and like I said again, they've got games in midweek where he can start, so they'll all get matches this week.
Yeah, they will. I have to agree, because obviously we against Oxford, Michael Frey and Coney didn't really work as a combination. So if Burrell drops out, it maybe makes more sense to have an additional midfielder, maybe a more traditional number 10 who can play behind Coney as the sole striker. It's just really good. We keep coming back to it. The amount of options he's got, that's the main thing, isn't it? You can't actually predict what he's going to do. We weren't saying that for the large majority of the last couple of seasons. One stat to watch out for this weekend as well relates to Ilias Chair. He's missed the last 7 games. He's not missed 8 league games in a row since we had Steve McLaren as manager back in 2018-19. Even last season, when he missed a lot of matches, he never missed more than 7 in a row. So I'm sure he's keen to get back, even if it is just for a little cameo. Here we go, then. 3rd month of the season starts now, Dave. Are you predicting a win in the London derby?
I think it'll be a tight one. I'm going to go for a draw for this one. I think both sides are quite evenly matched. I think Millwall will probably come trying to win the game. I don't think they're going to come and play for a point, but I just think that these games are normally quite tight and not a lot in it. And I think this one, which wouldn't be a terrible result.
No, I'm going to go with a draw as well. Playing early, we know a win takes us 3rd by 2:30, and wouldn't that be nice in front of a sellout Loftus Road crowd? But I just sense this one has got a 1-1 feel to it. We know Millwall, never easy to play against, a stubborn side, strong at set places. I want to say 2-1 to QPR, but I just keep bringing myself back to 1-1. Do let us know your predictions, as always, in the comments, and your thoughts on how long this unbeaten run can last for QPR. But it's a big week again. We've kept saying it, the old 3-game week, but there's 2 away days ahead. Brian and George will be here to preview Wednesday night trips to Swansea. And then Dave and I will be here this time next week to look ahead to an away date in Derby. Fingers crossed, we are still in the top 6, if not higher by then. Thank you for watching, and come on, you R's.